Welcome everyone to maximizing your coding productivity for modern apps, devices, and services with Visual Studio 2015. My name's Kathy Sullivan. Welcome guys. I'm a program manager on the Visual Studio IDE team. Today I'm going to take you through a tour of basically what's new in Visual Studio 2015, and we're going to focus on these four things. So first, I'm going to take you through what's new in sort of keeping Visual Studio customized and tailored to you and helping you focus on the things that you need to do in the IDE. Then we're going to go through coding and navigating and being able to find and fix issues a lot easier. Then I'm going to show you some new must-have extensions that we've been working on within our team, where you can go get those. And I'll show you a little bit about how to use those to help keep you more productive while you're coding. And then lastly, it's really important that you continue to tell us things that are working well for you, that you like, and also things that aren't working so well, and things that we could do better. So I want to do that quick refresher on how you can share your feedback more easily with us. So in Visual Studio 2015, we've simplified the product family. You guys, how many are familiar with the Community Edition? Okay, so the Community Edition is a fully featured IDE, and it comes with all that goodness of all the extensions that are out on the Visual Studio Gallery, so that huge ecosystem where there's thousands of extensions available for you. And this is for the non-commercial developer. And if you're a commercial developer working in the enterprise, professional and enterprise is the way to go there. I'm not going to bore you with too much of the details, so you can go out to the website to kind of figure out which of the products best suit your needs. Now, I want to talk a little bit about setup. I realize it's not the most exciting thing here, but there's a couple new things to call out for 2015. You're going to notice that there's a typical install and also a custom install here. And when you click on the custom install, this is where you're going to find all of the additional platforms that we're now shipping with Visual Studio. So the one thing you will notice is that we have a smaller footprint now for Visual Studio, meaning that you'll only install the things that you actually need or want to use. And over time, you're going to see this experience get a little better, which now means that you have more choices. So when clicking on custom, this is where you'll find all those additional platforms that we announced a lot of those at Build last week. We've talked about them on our Visual Studio blog as well. Now, once again, Visual Studio 2015 is side-by-side compatible with 2013, and this has been a very consistent thing that hopefully you've seen throughout the past several years. So I encourage you to go install the RC. You can upgrade from the RC to the RTM, so if that's one of your fears, that experience should work, and if it doesn't, please tell us. And therefore, having this smaller default and giving you more choices now means that we're able to sort of compartmentalize Visual Studio to give you smaller and faster updates. So those Visual Studio updates that we started releasing over the past few years, you're going to notice they'll be smaller, they'll be quicker to install, which means you'll always have the latest version of Visual Studio on your machine. So next I want to talk a little bit about how you can make Visual Studio your Visual Studio. We're going to talk about this in the context of settings and services. This is our new account management dialog here. And what I want to call out here is now that now we're able to allow you to sign in with multiple accounts into the IDE. So I'll show you this in a second, but you'll notice that we have a personalization account, and this is that account that's going to take all your settings and customizations that you make to Visual Studio. But you can also add other accounts that you may use for things like Microsoft Azure and accessing Visual Studio Online. You can add those separate accounts to this dialog as well. So now when you customize Visual Studio, you take all those accounts with you, no matter what machine or device you happen to be working on. So let's go switch over to the demos here. For those of you who are not familiar, we introduced signing into the IDE in the upper right-hand corner. You see this sign in Visual Studio 2013. Now, in Visual Studio 2013, you were only able to sign in with a Microsoft account. But what we've done in 2015 is we've enabled you to sign in with your work or school account. So I'm actually going to sign in with kathys@microsoft.com, which is the account that I use at work. Awesome. So hopefully you're going to find this sign-in experience a little more unified. I'm going to wait a few seconds before showing you the dialog to make sure that all of my accounts are pulled in. And in just a moment, or a few more seconds, you'll notice that the IDE will be updated to the customization settings that I like and that are very personal to me. So I use the blue theme, I like line numbers on, I use the enhanced scroll bar, and I've increased the font a little bit for today's presentation. So let's head up to the upper right-hand corner, and it now recognizes that I've signed into the IDE. Here we go. And what you'll see here, as I mentioned, is I'm using KathyS@Microsoft.com as my personalization account. So no matter which IDE, what device I sign into, I always get all of those settings that I like. I also use KathyS@Live.com for things like my Azure subscription. So I want to make sure that if I'm doing something personal for myself, that I have that account with me. Now, you'll notice it says I need to refresh my credentials. And that's because we're not going to roam your credentials for you. So the first time I add my account, I actually need to go and re-authenticate. So let's go and do that. Awesome. So now, you'll notice that my blue theme has been applied and all the other customizations that I make. I want to show you how we've brought this experience, and we added support for it across places in the IDE. So if I go and open up, how many of you guys actually know about Quick Launch, which I'm using right now? If you don't know about Quick Launch, Control Q, it's amazing. If you're a keyboard user, Control Q, you can open up anything across menus and everything in Tools Options. Control Q, start typing, and then just hit Enter when you get to the result. So what you'll see over here in this mobile services section, you'll see that I have a service that I use with work, and then I have a service that's tied to my live account. So both of these accounts I'm able to use in Server Explorer here. And once I've added those accounts to my account management page, I don't have to go and re-enter those credentials every single time when I want to access my Azure services, for example. A few other places where we've added this experience in here, if I go up to File, New Project, and let's go pick like a Universal app, you'll also notice here for things like Application Insights, I now have both of those accounts here very quickly so I can access them for whichever one makes sense for what I happen to be developing. And another place is the connected services. So if I had a connected service to my project and I pick something like Azure Storage, you'll see here I get that very same experience. So you're going to see a lot of this support added in across the IDE, so you're not constantly entering your credentials in to the IDE. I didn't have to do anything special for that, so does that answer your question? Awesome. Cool. So like I said, we support work and school accounts. So no matter where you might have your your MSDN subscription or your services, you can now go and add those accounts to the IDE. So the next thing I want to call out in the upper right-hand corner is this notification flag. We've realized as we've talked to a lot of developers and we learned how they use it or they don't use it, we're trying to make the hub more relevant to you. So you'll see some changes that are coming into Visual Studio 2015 where we've added support for categorization. So you can now see the types of categories that are coming into the notification hub. And hopefully you should be able to more easily scan the hub and find what you're looking for. Also, if you find things that you're not interested in, let's say I don't happen to use SQLite. I'll zoom in a little bit. I can now have support to always ignore something. So I will never, ever be bothered again by a SQLite update. So hopefully this should help you keep the hub up to date so that it only shows you things that are relevant to you. You'll also notice at the top that no, we haven't released Visual Studio Update 1 yet. This is just merely an example, but at the top we have a reserved area for things like Visual Studio Updates. And also if there's a problem with your license, this is where you can go and see that and quickly get that resolved. We've also introduced something down at the bottom you see that's called troubleshooting. So if we detected something like a graphics card crash, we can go and tell you about it here, and we can help you get that fixed really quickly. So over time, you should start to see more things that are more relevant to you about your environment showing up in the hub here. So let's see, the next thing I want to talk about is working on multiple displays. And so I imagine a lot of you, you have maybe a laptop, right? And maybe at your desk you have a few monitors. That's pretty much the setup that I have. And when I go back to the office, I have a bunch of monitors. I have a ton of room to spread out and use Visual Studio. And so to help you manage all those layouts that you have, whether it is an environment setup you have or something like a task-focused thing, like maybe when you're designing, you're in a designer, you like to have different windows open, we've introduced this, what we're calling custom window layouts. So you'll find them up in the window menu. And here you can save a layout. So if I hit save, it would save my current layout. But I have a few layouts here that I've already created for how I actually work. So there's shortcuts for them. So Control-Alt-1 changes to my multi-monitor layout. I've got a lot of room. I like these tool windows. Just imagine these tool windows are off on my other monitors. But when I'm working on my laptop or my Surface, Control-Alt-2, I kind of like to push everything out of the way because I really don't have a lot of room for these tool windows. And then I have one for demos just to kind of bring this back. Now, I can also go up to the window menu and I can manage them so I can reorder them, rename them, and delete ones that I happen to not use anymore. And really the best part about these custom layouts is that they also roam with your personalization account. So no matter what device you're on, you always have all of the layouts that you've invested time in setting up. They come with you. So let's move on to taking that kind of the device-centric thing, and let's talk a little bit about touch. So we've now supported touch in the editor. So I have a touch screen here, and I'm going to use my index finger to scroll through my code. And I can use my index finger and my thumb to do a pinch and zoom as well. And I could, let's press and hold and bring up the context menu. And then to select an entire line, I can simply select line numbers as kind of a good anchor for you to select an entire line. And so these are all the multi-touch gestures that a lot of other applications support and that Windows supports as well. So I hope that if you do have touch displays, you'll find this useful for maybe you're sitting next to someone and you want to quickly show them something. You happen to be riding on the bus, you're not necessarily typing, you just want to scan through a couple files. And we certainly realized by bringing this support into the editor that we've sort of removed some of those barriers, and you're going to find other places that you want to go out and touch. They may not work very well, so please tell us. We realize this is really just scratching the surface, but like I said, it's really useful in a couple scenarios where you're just looking through your code and doing some basic browsing. So let me reset this. So let's see. Leave that number 5. So we'll just do a quick recap. We talked about notifications and reducing the clutter in the hub, making it more relevant to you so that you only see the things that you care about. Then I showed you custom window layouts. If you're working with multiple displays or within different environments, you can take your layouts with you since they roam with your personalization account. We went through touch in the editor, how we're supporting better multi-touch gestures in the editor with your code. And then lastly, going off of that whole, these devices that are coming out, they're more powerful, the screens are way more dense. We're continuing to move that bar in terms of high DPI in the IDE. In 2013, we spent a lot of time fixing issues where column sizes weren't the right size, icons were blurry, and whatnot. And so you'll even see an improvement since 2013 where across the IDE, not everywhere, we're able to serve up some high resolution images. So you should start to see over time a lot more places in the IDE using this new service that we're providing. And so whether you're on a display that supports 150% or you're up to 250 now, you should notice a better experience with a lot more pixel crisp icons. All right, so let's move on to the fun stuff here. We're going to take a big tour through all of the new editor improvements to help you find and fix issues within your code. Oop, did that not? Oh, sorry. We went dark. All right. So how many of you have not, let's say, how many of you have not used 2013 or 2015? I don't want to do too much. All right, so a lot, are you guys all familiar with Peak? Okay, all right, cool. So we don't need to go too much into that. So in 2013, as you guys recall, we improved the find experience, right? So inline find within the editor. So the find dialog's not blocking your code. We also brought upeak, which is Alt F12 for the few of you who don't know Peak. But kind of building off of all these things that we did in 2013, we've kept the momentum going forward in 2015 and brought them into more experiences. So let me see here. Let me go and open one of my XAML file here. And I've got just a designer here with a very basic paint app here. And I'm going to click on one of these buttons, and I actually want to go increase the size of my button here. And so traditionally, I'd have to go figure out where that button size is defined. But what we've done is we've brought Peak to XAML. So if I click on this button style, and Alt F12 brings up the Peak window, I now have Peak within inside XAML. Yes, it's pretty awesome. And so, with all the other Peak support, I can edit inside the Peak window. I got my colorization, I get my line numbers, my enhanced scroll bar. So I can just quickly go and increase this. I can save it. We notice the button increases, the size increases, and then I hit escape. So I didn't even need to leave my XAML designer view here to go off and find that thing that I wanted to go fix. So let's go back to the CS file. And let's talk a little bit about CodeLens. So for those of you who aren't familiar with CodeLens gives you that sort of heads-up display of your code, who's been editing it, what kind of tests have run over it, some of the changes that have happened recently. So I hold down the Alt key, and I get these little tooltips. So Alt 2 brings up my references. And the CodeLenses are very keyboard friendly. So within the CodeLens, I can hold down Alt, and you notice I got the left and right arrow, so that I can easily navigate through all of the lenses here. And so I have a references lens, I have an author lens, and then a changes lens here. And I'm actually using a project that's up on GitHub right now. And so I get full Git support with my lenses here. And now I can also right-click on them to see all the lenses that we've built, and we've been shipping a ton of lenses as time goes on. Yeah, so, well, let's just, here. So, the reveal here, of course, it's these buttons. So in 2015, CodeLens is now available in Professional, for those of you who don't know. Yeah, and that's super exciting. There's nothing like showing off some really cool things, and half the room says, I can't use that. So honestly, this is the sort of poster child of why you guys need to give us your feedback. I know sometimes it can feel like you're not being heard, but honestly, we listened to you, and we brought CodeLens to the Professional product. So now you can use all these lenses, whether you're using, sorry about that, I'll figure it out. It's 7. All right, cool. So now you can use all these lenses, whether you're using TFVC or you're using Git, no matter where your Git repo is, too. You'll notice that, sorry. We'll get this right. There we go. Okay. And so if you don't want to use CodeLens, you can turn it off here, or you can pick and choose the lenses that you do want. And if you're using those team lenses that I mentioned and you're finding that they're not up to date, you can certainly go and refresh them there. So again, along the same lines that we're doing for Peak, we're also bringing CodeLens into other files. So I'm going to go open up like a basic readme.txt file. And what you'll notice in the lower left-hand corner is we now have file lenses. So CodeLens supported C# and VB. And these file lenses are actually supported in C#, SQL, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, basic text files. I think there's probably a few others that I'm missing. So along with CodeLens in Professional, you'll also get these file lenses for anything that's not in C# and VB. And again, they're very similar to what the code lenses are. I can hold down escape. I can hold down the Alt key and quickly get to them using the keyboard, so Alt 5 and Alt 7. And if you find that you don't want to see them, you can always just collapse them back in here. All right. Yes? What was that? Oh, sorry, I can't hear you.
Where's the code lens information stored?
Where's it? So these are, you're asking even where all of them are stored. I actually don't know. But if you want, you can follow up with me after. We can get you an answer. If he was asking where the code lens information is stored. So let's jump into this whole find and fix thing and help you get your errors in your code resolved a lot quicker. Now, in 2015, you'll see a little light bulb in the margin next to line numbers if you have them on. And these light bulbs are going to help you identify and fix common coding issues that you may have in your code. And it's going to help you take code actions based on some suggestions that we're providing for you. And this means that you don't need to leave the editor to go and try and resolve things with your code the trouble spots, so kind of wherever those things exist. You can do it from right within the editor. So let me show you a little bit about the light bulb here. So I can hover over my error, and I can use the mouse. Whoops, my mouse is behaving here. I can use the mouse to access this light bulb here. And what you'll see is that it has a handful of suggestions here for me. And then it offers a preview on the right. So it tells me what the error code is. It gives me the description of it. And then it gives me a preview of my code. So something that's, for example, green here is something that's going to be added to my code, and something that's red is something that's going to be removed from my code. Now, real quick, Control Dot is the way to bring up these quick fixes in the light bulb using the keyboard. So what I want to do is open up, let me open up the error list real quick. Here we go. Oh, I just want to close this one out. And so imagine if I had a big list of errors in here. And so F8 is the shortcut to scroll through my error list. Shift F8 is the way to go backwards in there. So if I'm looking through here and I say, okay, this is the one I want, I just hit F8. My focus is already in the editor, and we'll go use this light bulb and we'll take the first fix. So you'll see that the first fix is going to often be the one that you want, and so you should be able to build up confidence over time to be able to fix the first, or take the first fix. So I can literally just do Control-Enter and take that first fix over time as I become more comfortable with the fixes that the light bulb was suggesting for me. So Control-Enter, so taking the first fix within the list there. Now, what I want to call out is that we've been enhancing the error list to be sort of your one-stop shop for you to go and look for things to find and fix your code. But also, we're bringing code analysis errors into the error list. And now, sorry, I skipped ahead just a little bit here. Let me just go back here. So coming back to this, let's close that out. What you'll notice here is this, you may not be able to see it, but on my screen, this color value is a little lighter than all the other blue colors around. I also noticed that I have a light bulb here. So now before we fixed an error that was in the light bulb, but this one is actually more of just a suggestion in terms of having some cleaner code. So Control-Dot will bring up that light bulb as I mentioned. And this is just telling me that I can remove an unnecessary cast. Again, this is just a cleanup activity. It's not something that's going to keep my code from running. So I can go and take this one by just hitting Enter. But what I do want to call out here is that I have the option to preview these changes. So maybe this change is a little more complex. And before I go and do it, I want to take a look at it to make sure that I know what's going to happen. I can also fix it within a scope. So if I just want to fix it in this document, maybe across this project or the entire solution too. You're funny. So we'll control dot on that, and we'll go and take that fix there too. Now, sorry, moving forward back to the code analysis here. We're going to now surface, so let me just go in and kick off code analysis here. We're going to surface these analysis errors in the error list. So think of the error list as getting more robust over time. Now, sorry, let me go and add another column here. Let me make this a little bigger. So you'll see that my code analysis warnings are now here in my error list. And I have quick access, so if I wanted to get a little more information on this error, or sorry, this warning, I can go and click on it and we'll open that for you so you can take a look at it up on MSDN. I now have category support for them, which also means that if I hover over these categories, this code and these columns, if I hover over category and code, what you'll see here is we have some Excel-style filtering here to help me kind of focus on the warnings that I want to go and fix. And now one of the great things about also bringing these warnings into the error list window is that oftentimes we run a code analysis, at the end of a project or at a point in time when we're asked to. And I've done this before. I went through and suppressed all the warnings, right? And then someone says, why did you do that? And you go, oh, we don't have any more time to fix them. So hopefully you'll find that by bringing them into the error list that it's bringing them more to the forefront so that you can fix these little things along the way, hopefully, as you're coding and not wait to the end. So let's go and click on the category. And I know that I want to take a look at a naming one here. And then I know that it was 704 because I've had to deal with this one before. So it actually says that I should go and fix the spelling for utils. It probably wants me to rename it to utilities. So let's go and do that. So I'm in a F12 on utils, which brings me to the namespace where I'm defining paint.utils. And when I get here, I'm just going to start typing. My focus is on utils right now. So let's start typing. And what you'll see here, not only do I have this dotted outline, which indicates that I'm now in a refactoring session, I also get the light bulb to tell me that. So if I escape out of this, I'm in a refactoring session, as I mentioned. I'm going to control dot, and now I get some help, right? So now I can let the IDE take some of that strain off of refactoring for me, because if I were to do this by hand and then maybe use find or to go and fix this, I'm likely going to miss a lot of things, and then I'm going to have a ton of errors, and I'm going to get pretty frustrated. So let's go and select rename with preview changes. Preview changes has not changed, but now we can use it to help you find all those instances that we're going to go update and make that change to. So let's just go apply that. And now I've made that update, and I didn't really have to do much except verify that I was willing to make some of those changes. So hopefully you'll find that the light bulb, over time, you're able to start learning what kind of suggestions will be there in there and start taking the first recommended one. And also you'll find the error list as sort of your one-stop shop for things that you need to do in your code, and finding and fixing those errors a lot easier. Now let's go to this project over here. Now, I want to talk a little bit about analyzers. The Azure team has worked on an Azure Code Analyzer. So I have this guestbook app that they've shared with me to kind of demo some of the powerful rules and analysis that you can go and run over your Azure cloud applications. So the Azure Code Analysis tool is going to provide you guidance for best practices for those large applications that you're running that you want to make scalable and performant in Azure. And it's going to help you identify things that could potentially degrade the performance of your application, maybe compromise security, providing inconsistent results, or if you're using maybe deprecated APIs, it'll tell you about that as well. So I've already run static code analysis previously. And let's go. And so I've got two warnings in the error list. And control dot brings up the light bulb. And it shows me that I should avoid setting this time here. And it tells me that I'm just going to delete this line. But I wouldn't have known that unless I had this analyzer that was already running. So we can go and accept this and quickly remove some of those errors of things that I shouldn't be doing here. And then it also tells me about another error in here. Sorry, warning, I keep calling them errors. And I should go and avoid using the in-process session here. So much like the error list showed me those links so I could go learn a little bit more, this one brings me out to a page where I can do a little more reading and understand why it's suggesting this to me and why I should go make a fix here. So this one I don't have a fix for, but I just wanted to show you an example of how we're going to help you understand why you should make a fix, and then we'll send you to that place where you can go read a little bit more about it. Now, the analyzer, I want to show you where it is in my project. It's all I did was expand the references node in my project, and there's an analyzers node in here, which has my Azure code analysis analyzer. And then it also shows me the analyzer rules that it'll run over there. So if I wanted to go and take a quick peek at them, I could. But hopefully I can just let them run in the background. And when they come up, I can take care of them right at that moment and not sort of wait until the end. Hold on. So you said, can you write custom rules? Oh, hold on. He asked if you, yeah. Sorry, 1 sec. So he asked if you can write custom rules. So I don't know if you can add rules to this one, but you can write your own analyzers. So like, let's say you were writing your own library, and developers who are going to consume it, you could suggest best practices or things not to do, for example. And so you could pull in rules that already exist, or you could write your own rules. I'm not 100% sure if you can add rules to an existing analyzer, but if you do want an answer, follow up with me after that. Yeah, what was your question?
My question is, do you get this analyzer by adding an extension, or is it built in?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. So yes, to get your analyzers, you're going to go out to the NuGet package manager, and so that's where I went and grabbed this analyzer. So just search for them, install them, and then that's how you'll get them to show up in your analyzer node here. And I believe tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, Dustin Campbell is going to go into these analyzers a lot more in depth. So if you have specific questions about building your own analyzers and whatnot, Dustin's going to be your guy, and that's tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, I believe. And so kind of along the lines of analyzers and light bulbs, they're both fully extensible. So anyone can write their own analyzer. Anyone can hook into the light bulb system to suggest your own fixes and best practices. Yeah. I don't. He asked if you could integrate this in with FXCop. So I believe you can likely reference the rules that are in FXCop. I haven't written my own analyzer. If you do go to Dustin's talk tomorrow, he'd be the guy to ask about that. Yeah. Any other questions before we move on? Yes.
Has like a multi-select feature been implemented? For example, in Sublime Text, you could just select an area of text, keep smashing Control-V, and keep selecting on the same document all the elements of the same text, and then you just edit them as simultaneously.
Oh yes. So you. I always forget how to do that, but you can do that. Yes. Come see me after, and we can make that light up. Yeah. Cool. All right. So let's. So now, I want to just. How many of you are coding in C++? Okay, a handful of you. The one thing I do want to call out, since we did move static code analysis results to the error list, I just want to call out, you may be thinking, oh, well, the static code analysis errors for C++ had traditionally a lot more information here. And so one of the things that we've done to support that better is we're still letting you see that information inside the error list. But on one of the last errors, you see this little window with a pop-out thing. And so this is how you can go see some of those more detailed analysis warnings that you have. So here's just a simple example of some uninitialized memory I'm using. And I have this little window that's off to the side that I can up and down arrow through to show me the results of this warning. And if I wanted to, I could pop this out and move it to another window. And you'll also be able to you'll find that you can expand these warnings too, so you can find a little more details about these warnings if you are using C++. Now, another cool thing is that the light bulbs also work in C++. So I have this header file, and if I were to control dot on this method that I haven't written yet and create the declaration, we'll use the peek window here to help you write that method so that you don't have to go and open up that C++ file. All right. So let's see. Let's head back to this guy. Get that out of the way. So the next thing I promised that we were going to go through some of the new must-have extensions that folks in the Visual Studio team have been working on. How many of you guys have heard of the Bing Developer Assistant? All right, only a few of you. All right, so you can go get it out at the gallery. So go up to Tools, Extensions, and Updates. And I already have it installed here, but you could easily search for it up here. You can also go out to, I believe it's aka.ms/devassistant. I'll show you the URL at the end too, to go and download this. But the Bing developer team has been working on this extension for a couple years now. But they're constantly adding new features to it. And so one of the best things I think that they've added recently is support for code snippets across lots of different places on the internet. So Control-Shift-F1 brings up this snippet manager. So I'm trying to fill in this method here in my Paint app to save images as PNGs. So if I start, let's see, typing in here, canvas, save image. There we go. So I'm going to save this canvas as an image. What we're now doing, so these results that are showing up here are coming from MSDN forums, they're coming from Stack Overflow, and they're now also coming from GitHub. So that's pretty awesome. We're going to start to pull in a lot more places so that things that other people have written, you can go and utilize them right within the editor. So I can browse through these. I think there's, let's see, there's one right here that I want to go and use. So just going to create some room for it. And then I have a copy logo in the right-hand corner here. So if I hit copy, and now I can just go paste it into the editor. And this is where those light bulbs come in super handy, right? I've got all these red squiggles, and it's like, oh, of course, right? Because I just copied a snippet in here. But if I can just do Control dot and enter and Control dot, so I'm just taking those first suggestions. I can resolve a few of these errors real quickly so that I can try and figure out how to use this code snippet a lot easier. Now, if I wanted to go browse these code snippets a little more depth, I can click on Search More in this dialog, and it brings up the code samples here, where I can see where these code samples are coming from. So I see that the first two are coming from Stack Overflow, and the last one's coming from MSDN. I can also look across things like GitHub projects here, and then on the right I have code snippets. So I have a little more of a richer view here if I want to browse through some of the snippets before I actually go and accept them or go and copy them into my code. So let's see. It was to bring up the snippet one in the editor is Control-Shift-F1. So F1 for help. So Control-Shift-F1. So I encourage you guys to go and download that extension and give feedback to the team if there's things that you like about it, or also if there's things that you don't. Now, the one thing I forgot to call out is this search is actually contextually aware of what you're working on. So I'm in C#, so it's not going to show me any C++ code samples or code snippets. And that's super helpful, so I don't have to keep browsing through them to find something that works. So you see that it's filtered automatically to C#. So MSDN forums, Stack Overflow, and GitHub for now. Yes, so if there's other places that you'd like to see them come from, please pass that feedback on to the team too. Yeah? Well, how do you know they're of high quality? You don't. And that's a great question. But yeah. Yeah, no, it's a fair point. I think I'd encourage you to try the extension and then give feedback on it, the experience from there. They've done a lot of optimizing there, and so and if you want to know more about the optimizing they've done, come see me afterward, and I can hook you up with the team so you can chat more with them. Yeah. That's correct. You have to go out to you can go to the gallery, or you can go up to the extension manager in the tools menu and go and pull it down. So the last thing I want to kind of go through here, if we can get back here. So for those of you who didn't hear last week, we collaborated pretty closely with GitHub, and we've been doing this, I don't know, for the past 9 months or so. And we wanted to bring, so for developers who are working with GitHub, we wanted to bring that support into Visual Studio to make it a lot easier for you to clone things, create things, and also publish to GitHub. So I'm going to go and connect to GitHub here. So we have on the right, we have some invitations that will help you get started a lot quicker with either Visual Studio or GitHub here. So once I've authenticated with GitHub, I apologize, I actually went I kind of blazed over this real quick. We support your personal GitHub accounts, and also if you're working for an enterprise that has an enterprise GitHub account, or you're consulting and you're using one of their enterprise accounts, you can enter in your personal one and or your enterprise account here. So we'll go and add that in. And so the first thing I'm probably going to want to do is clone something from GitHub. And so what you'll see here is that I have the repositories that are mine. They're both public and private, so I have a few that are identified with the padlock as my private repos. And then below, I have all of the repositories that others are sharing with me. So I get full access to every GitHub repo that I already have access to. So let's go pull down this Music Store app here. And from here on, we're using all the built-in Git functionality that comes with Visual Studio. So basically, we clone it over on the right, and so now it's just a local Git repository that has a remote against GitHub. And so I get all that same support that I get for Git repositories in Visual Studio Online. I get that here. Tells me my repo is private, the URL. And we're able to utilize a lot of the same functionality that we have for VSO Git. So those orange navigation boxes are just built-in Git support for Visual Studio. But those blue boxes are actually identified that those are things that are very specific to GitHub. So if I were to click on issues, it would bring me out to the issues on github.com. And then I can quickly just open the solution here and get to work. So I could go and do that, sorry. I think it's going to take a second. No, okay, cool. And so now I've already cloned this, obviously, but let's say I didn't open this from within Visual Studio. I'm up on my GitHub page with that same project. And in the lower right-hand corner, it knows that I've installed the GitHub extension. So the first time I log into the GitHub extension in Visual Studio, will show the open in Visual Studio. So now I'm going to be able to easily and quickly open things from GitHub in Visual Studio right away. So as soon as I click on that link, we're using a new git-client protocol to go and do the clone down to my machine and open it as a local Git repo, just like you just saw me do there. So now let's just go back here, and I'm going to open up one other app. I'm working on this weather app, and I'm finally ready to go and share it with my friends so they can go and contribute to it. Now, to get to the publish experience so I can publish this up on GitHub, I'm going to click on sync, and we now have a built-in publish experience here to get your code that you want to share on GitHub up there a lot faster. So if I had an enterprise account, this is my personal account, but I would see in the dropdown both my personal and my enterprise GitHub account. And then we pull in the repo name here and put it in by default, and then I can add a description. And if I have the ability to create private repos on GitHub, that checkbox is enabled there, and if I don't, then it's disabled. So I can quickly go and publish this up on GitHub. It's really that simple. Just one click on the publish button. And so now if we go back, we should see our weather app there. So this is just one of the ways that we're trying to meet developers where they are. And this is one of those ways we're bringing GitHub into Visual Studio to make it a lot easier for you to clone and publish things up to GitHub. So, go back here. So like I mentioned before, actually, I just want to head back to the, we're going to go and do this again. Awesome. So we already talked about CodeLens being available in 2015 Professional. And then, so we went through all the find and fix workflow about navigating and not losing context of where you were looking. So I showed you Peek that now works in XAML. We also went through CodeLenses and how we have a handful of new lenses in there to support all your projects that are up on Git. And then we saw the file lenses, which are available in files like C++ and SQL and CSS and text files and whatnot. Then I showed you the new light bulb. So Control Dot is the way to get to the light bulb so that you can find and fix errors in your code a lot easier. And then we went through some refactoring, how you can let the IDE take some of that strain off of your refactoring. And then lastly, we talked a little bit about the extensibility there. So if you want to learn a little bit more about those analyzers, you can go to Dustin's talk tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Sorry about that. Awesome. And then we went through GitHub for Visual Studio. And so if you have feedback about the GitHub extension for Visual Studio, you can send it directly to GitHub, since we were collaborating with them, and they're going to sort of take the rest of it from here. So they'd love to hear what you like about it and potentially what you don't like. Hopefully there isn't anything there. But if you do have feedback, you can share that with GitHub directly. Awesome. And then, so then lastly, I talked to you a lot about at the beginning about how you can share your feedback from us. And one of those ways, CodeLens is a great example of that, and how we've brought it into Visual Studio Professional based on all of the feedback that we heard from you. And so in the upper right-hand corner of the IDE, we have Send a Smile. And so you'll find it right between Quick Launch and the notifications hub up there. And so from there, I can either send a smile, or you can either send a smile, or if you happen to not like something or something isn't working quite right, you can send us a frown. And what I want to call out here, so you can put in your description here, if you are sending a frown, I encourage you to be as specific as possible, telling us exactly what you were doing at the time where you experienced an issue. Now, if you're using multiple monitors here, they would all show up here, so I'm only using one right now. But we will show all three of your monitors. If you want, you can send that. Otherwise, you can use the crop feature, which lets you only send us the thing that you actually want to show us. Now, this is an internal build of Visual Studio, but when you install it, you'll have another text box here where you can put your email address in. And I can't stress enough how important it is. If you send us feedback and it's a bug, please include your email so that we can follow up with you. And honestly, we look through every single piece of feedback. So if you do experience something, an issue or a bug, this is really the best way for you to get that to us. And when you include your email, we're able to follow up really easily to ask you to try out some other things or get some more information from you. So I highly encourage you to send us your feedback there. And then a few other ways that you can get us information real easily is heading up to the Send a Smile, going to More Options. And if you do want to file a Connect bug and you want to sort of open up that channel of communication with us, you can submit a bug here. And again, putting in a lot of information is definitely more helpful for us. And lastly, if you have a great idea or if you have a way that you want to see us improve something, submitting an idea out to our user voice site. And that, again, that's where we got that CodeLens feedback from. So you can vote up ideas, and you can also add your own ideas, share them with your friends or your coworkers, and have them voted up. This is one of the big ways that we discover things that are that you guys are suggesting and things that we could do a lot better in the IDE too. Yes?
Can you navigate to an implementation from an interface with the 2015 desired functionality added?
Yes. Yep. So it was a question that you can navigate to an interface. Actually, come follow up with me after so I can understand. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I don't believe that we have support for that. But so Dustin's going to be your guy tomorrow morning to go talk a little bit more about that. Yeah. Cool. It is C# code-focused development, I believe. Actually, it's right here. Sorry, I have it. Yes. Yeah. So Dustin's talk tomorrow morning is actually very complementary to this talk. So if you want to dive in a little bit more, or you have some more specific questions about things in the editor, you can go out to Dustin's talk tomorrow morning. You can grab the Bing Developer Assistant from here, or you can go to the Extension Manager and download it. And again, sending us your feedback is super important to helping us improve the product and helping keep you guys more productive in the IDE.